everyone, this is Liz Easton, and I wanted to take a quick second to invite you to listen in to the PC Book Club. Wait, I need to start again. Hi, everyone. This is Liz Easton, and I wanted to take a quick second to invite you to listen to the PC Book Club, aka PCBC. Every so often, Ricardo Avila and I chat about the books that you should be reading right now. It's just like sitting on your own private book club discussion, only there's probably slightly more references to true crime and Charles Dickens. I did not write this.
We may have to re-record that anyway, because I think you just said it's just like sitting on your own private book club.
She did. That was great. Sitting on a book club. Sitting on a private book club. That's pretty racy. Sorry.
Should I try again? It's just like sitting in on your own private book club discussion, only there's probably slightly more references to true crime and Charles Dickens. So if you're looking for the class with an occasional dose of the sass, then check out the PC Book Club right here on the Popping Collars feed. Class and sass.
Love it.
I was praying to the Lord for some
Hey, I'm Greg Knight.
Hey, Ryan Parker.
And this is the PC Pilgrims podcast, a Popping Collar side pod where Ryan and I attempt to walk around the world. This month, we're going back to the movies. We're talking about the Australian Camino movie, The Way, My Way.
It all started on that holiday in Spain. The Pilgrims.
Pilgrims?
Hey.
Need a lift, mate?
No, I'm in training.
Training?
Yeah, I'm going to walk the Camino de Santiago. It's an 800-kilometre pilgrim's walk in Spain.
I am hoping that after this Camino, I won't have to apologise for you anymore.
Are you Bill?
Yeah, I'm Balazs. Nice to meet you. Here comes Leslie. Yeah.
Hi. Oh, no, don't hug.
I'm Rosa. Home for the night?
They have a turn-down service?
That's a joke. Do you sleep well?
No, there was someone snoring. Farting.
That's disgusting.
Ce n'est pas la bonne route.
Ah, bonjour, madame. Bonjour, monsieur.
somewhere along the way.
I don't know why I'm doing this walk. I want to let the walk give me the answer.
Hope you find what you're looking for somewhere along the way.
That is bone on bone. You will not be able to continue your Camino.
We'll see about that. That's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Water. I need water. I see this walk as an 800-kilometer long cathedral. This is the Camino. Miracles happen all the time.
Somewhere along the way.
Safe journey.
My friend. My friend. Bon Camino.
Hope you find what you're looking for somewhere
Hey, sweetheart. I'm a pilgrim.
Ryan, I have a brief description of The Way, My Way. Would you like to hear it?
I do. First off, can I tell you how I came across this film?
Oh, that's actually the first thing I was going to ask you after I read the synopsis.
Oh, well then read the synopsis. Please, produce this show. Produce away.
Real quick, the charming and captivating true story of an Australian man's this is not... You should not put... Okay, editor's note. Don't put the words Australian, man, and transformative all in a row. It's too many ands.
Good to know.
All right, here we go. Take two. The charming and captivating true story of an Australian man's transformative experience walking the Camino de Santiago and the people he meets along the way, that changed his life forever. Most generic plot description of all time. We're going to flesh it out. But Ryan, how did you find The Way, My Way?
It was listed on a Delta flight I was on.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and like as an option, I get on a flight and I scroll through what movies that are available, especially newer ones, that I am never going to watch on a plane. I just like knowing what's out there because I refuse to watch a film on those tiny screens with the crappy headphones. But of course I'll watch it on my iPad. But anyway, that's beside the point. But that's how I came across it. So I texted you. I was like, I took a screenshot of the screen and sent it to you and was like, hey, what about this film? We should talk about it. I had never heard of it before. So I'm glad you wanted to do this because I have a lot to say about this film.
Okay, two things. By the way, you brought it up, so now I've got to go that way. I love watching movies on planes. As a matter of fact, flying to Europe is totally worth it to me just so that I can watch 6 movies over the course.
Well, you have children. You finally have this uninterrupted 6 hours that you can watch. I don't think you can watch 6, but you can watch 3.
That's right. Absolutely love it. I'm always catching up on stuff that I haven't seen. And it's actually how I watched Dune 2, which I'm sure is exactly how Denis Villeneuve designed it.
I'm going to jump out the window.
Second, The Way, My Way. Okay, so when you're planning your own Camino documentary experience like we are, at least on my side of things, I'm checking out a bunch of community boards, Reddit boards, stuff like that. And this movie, dated 2024, was one of the more popular Camino movies. We've seen a lot of Camino movies like over the last year. And, the returns, your mileage may vary on how these things are. But this one in particular was sort of hailed as being a great movie. And yeah, I can see why people thought that after watching it.
Hailed as a great film seems a bit of a stretch, but I don't think the opposite is true either. I think it's a very good film. I was a bit put off at the beginning, but it grew on me.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I was excited. I watched it and was actually excited to talk about it because, there's been a couple things we watched where I'm just like, man, this is woof. But this is not. And I think the first thing that we should say about this film, and I know you have kind of where you want to go with it, but it is made by a veteran filmmaker. And that comes through immediately.
Yes.
It looks good throughout. The visuals are great. The sound is great. Technically, it's an easy watch. You're not put off by bad sound recording, sound editing. The visuals are, again, they're beautiful. So I think I had the list of things to talk about here, and that's obviously one of its strengths. To its credit, is it's a very beautiful film.
I think the decision to work with a very small crew of highly, highly skilled and talented people has proven to be the correct decision because, I started to ask myself, why hasn't an English language movie been made on the Camino since the Martin Sheen film The Way 13 years ago? And now I know why, because to mount a production on the Camino is really damn hard. I think the only way you can really do it truthfully, authentically, is to do it the way we've done it, which is have a very small crew, have a very small footprint, be almost invisible, if you like, and slip into the ebb and flow of the Camino.
We couldn't have done it with a big crew. We couldn't have had gaffer trucks in there. We couldn't have had, the usual rigmarole. There just isn't the access. We wouldn't have been able to access the places we were able to access, the people we were able to kind of meet along the way, and I think it served the film well.
Callum and I were very uncompromising in our just in the way that we depicted geography. And when you walk the Camino, you walk from A to B, and the film has to be from A to B. It's very tempting to go, oh gee, at this point here, there was a really great sequence, and if we moved it here, then it would be even better. But you can't do that because you're altering geography. There are going to be people who watch this film that'll go, that's wrong, Then they'll pick the whole film apart. And you can't do that. If you're going to be true to the Camino, if you're going to be, really have true, authentic experience, then you've got to be true to the geography. You've got to be true to all this minutiae.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's cinematic in a way that some of the documentaries, I'm thinking of Camino Ways that we watched at the end of last year. I mean, those are sort of basic, like, okay, here's the scene. This is, you can tell that there was some craft put into how these shots were chosen. And it's all familiar locations. It's the places that we know from having walked the Camino before. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I remember that. But just shot in cinematic way, not unlike The Way, I would say, which I think probably had a much bigger budget than this.
It's closest comp by far. And for me, I wrote down, it felt like the Camino film, and to play on the title, it felt like my Camino film.
Yeah.
Because it was so recognizable. And everybody has a different journey, but walking the traditional way that he's walking, as you and I know, I mean, he is playing the hits. And I want to say more about that later. But we see places that are very familiar, some kind of smaller food stands or, smaller villages were instantly recognizable. He wasn't trying to make a point by being so different,
right?
Like in his approach to the Camino.
Yeah. So give me some gut reactions. What are some initial takes on The Way, My Way?
Initial takes, it felt like if you want to walk the Camino, you should watch this film first.
Okay, yeah.
I felt like it was a really good introduction, almost too educational to a fault, in the sense of like there were moments where he was like talking about the distances, especially in the beginning between, Roncesvalles and what's the first, Orison. Yeah, some of that stuff got really technical. The getting into the weeds on the way to the pack, although that's extremely important, felt a little repetitive. But for people who want to kind of get at what this is, both not just logistically, but also communally. It was also very much familiar to me, and probably to you as well, where you may not walk with the same people every day, but you see the same people all the time. Right. And so I thought that was cool. So yeah, I think just introductory, wise, as an introduction to the Camino, it really works. Again, it's beautiful. I don't know if we want to get into kind of the spiritual side of it, but I think it really taps into the types of conversations you have with people and how deep and quick those, how deep and how quickly that happens. Yeah. What about you?
Hands down, the best part of this film is the opening. The opening scenes of the film, when he's driving around Spain and so there's narration, which, again, narration in movies, I don't know. It's just something that happens sometimes. And he's narrating how he's on vacation. He's driving through Spain. He sees people walking by the side of the road. He's curious about what it is that they're doing. He stops at a cafe to have a conversation with them, asks them why they're doing pilgrimage to Santiago, and none of them can explain or articulate in a way that he thinks is...
Or he doesn't like their answer.
Makes any sense. Yeah, exactly. Hands down, by far, like, the best, because it's actually the thing that I found when I was considering like looking into doing pilgrimage too, which is like there's this initial curiosity, there's this weirdness about it where you're like, why would anyone do this? But then it just kind of starts to pick away in your brain to the point where you're like, wait a second, why aren't I doing this? Like, this kind of seems like something that I could get something out of. And just seeing how that all unfolds in the first 15 minutes, I thought was perfect.
He says something that I think you're getting at, that succinctly describes what you're getting at. It was a curiosity at first, then it was a compulsion, and then it became an obsession. He says this. And I think that's very much true of, you kind of do become obsessed with it in terms, especially if you care for your body and your prep. Like you're going out on longer walks than you normally do. You may go take a Saturday like we did. I mean, we had the benefit of being in LA where you go climb a mountain or a big hill and just try to get your body ready. Also with your mind, and then also going through your belongings and what do I have to take versus what do I want to take and what can I take. So yeah, you find yourself, this is all you plan and talk about, especially if you're traveling with others.
Yeah, there's a romance to it in the sense that there's, as you're prepping for it, you're starting to, and you can see how he has these conversations with his wife early on in the film, where it's like, yeah, you're talking about weight of packs, you're talking about packing things that you need, you're starting to plot out like, where are the stages that I'm going to be staying? Like, what are the towns that I'm going to be in? And that all has like its own sort of curious language to it, and it's kind of like being in a bit of a club once you start sort of going down that road and like
Yeah.
checking in on forums and stuff like that. And I can see how that becomes, for someone who's looking for either meaning making or community, there's nothing quite like being able to speak inside baseball with another set of people, smaller community, that like you can just kind of do this jargon together. It really makes you feel like you're inside something. The one thing that does differentiate this movie from The Way is that Emilio Estevez, Martin Sheen, they're coming at that story from, if not a religious angle, certainly
Well,
like a spiritual angle.
Martin Sheen for sure. I mean, just we know
Right.
his path
We
as a Catholic and
Yeah.
very devout. Yeah.
We understand his Catholicism, and even though Catholicism isn't necessarily baked into that movie, certainly like processing death and doing ritual around death and grieving is part of that movie,
Yeah.
which I interpret as like a spiritual pursuit.
Yeah.
What makes this movie interesting and what makes Bill an interesting character is that I would identify him as non-religious, which is to say that he's not even agnostic. It's just not a part of his world. Like
Not on his radar.
spirituality just isn't even a thing for him.
Nope.
So how does a Catholic pilgrimage bring meaning to someone who is non-theist? And I think that there's a big like struggle with that as you get into the film.
I want to talk a little bit about that, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead in what I'm about to say, and maybe this is kind of that big spiritual, big picture point. But to me, that's one of the weaknesses of the film, is that his spiritual revelation feels a little forced at the end. It's almost like he felt like he had to have something or convey that he did have something. Because, I mean, I found a really good review of the film on Guardian, and I'm going to quote some of it, but, it's an overall favorable review. But one of the comments that the critic makes is, Bill's a bit of a dick. And I think that feels more like a shtick than who he really is, because I feel like he's got this interesting situation where he's directing himself. He's directing the film, but he's also in the film. And some of that feels a bit, not problematic is the wrong word, but well, maybe it is problematic. Like, because I'm not quite sure who to believe, Bill the director or Bill the subject of the film. Is he a subject? Is he just a character? So that whole experience is tough. But to its credit, though, I think he's chosen wisely the people that he talks with along the way, because that's the backbone of the film. Really, are the conversations that he's having with his fellow pilgrims about why they're doing it. And I think there are some really beautiful moments in there, and those are completely believable for me. So I don't know what you thought about all that, but
Yeah, because they're intensely personal. I think that like I was just thinking about the opening again, and there's a moment where he says, it was like watching lemmings, just walking
yeah,
off a cliff, watching these pilgrims walk down the road. And I was like, yes, absolutely. I remember having that thought while I was on the Camino and thinking to myself, I'm just a guy following yellow arrows. Like, I don't feel like I have any agency whatsoever. I'm just like, I am an empty person just following the direction that yellow arrows tell me to go in. And I
yeah,
think the reason that I had that thought specifically was because there were wildfires in the area where I was walking, and you would see like these first responders going out and like these alerts of like, just be careful if you're walking in this area, blah blah blah. And the whole time I'm like, what's wrong with me that I'm walking through a fire area because I don't know what else to do, right? Like that's a weird thing, And I'm glad that he calls it out as weird, because it is weird. And I think
But
it's
we've said
good to
this
be
all
honest
along.
about
We've said this all along. Why would anybody do this? It's a compulsion.
it. Mhm.
But I think there's something beautiful in that it's in those ridiculous, absurd things where we can have these really transformative experiences that it takes us out of the mundane. It takes us out of our everyday life and forces us to experience the world differently if it's just for like 30 to 40 days or a week or whatever.
I would say that the only other thing that I had, and you kind of put your finger on it, is Bill's character, like how he acts to other characters that are in the film, which is fascinating, right? Because like he doesn't pull any punches about the fact that he is a dick. You know, like I mean, he's not sugarcoating his character.
What's the last Camino film we watched before this one?
Oh, it was Camino Skies. Camino Skies. That's what
And remember, there was a character in there. She was like a busybody, always
Yeah.
telling people what to do. And you and I said they did a great job of showing the types of people you meet along the way, right? They're stereotypes because they're types, right? Like he is very much that person, which is really funny because here's a guy who doesn't understand pilgrimage at all and has thrown himself whole hog into this endeavor. So much so that he shows up and on day one, he's criticizing everybody's choices, which is kind of frustrating, but also like, I know I've met this guy.
Yeah.
Like it's so in one part, it was hard for me to just completely write this off as a terrible character or bad creative decision, or because those are people that walk the Camino.
Oh, totally. Let me make a blanket statement and offend like half of our audience.
Offend all of them. I don't care. Offend me.
But,
I'm
like,
ready.
If you're an Australian or if you're
Yeah.
an American, so
Yeah.
someone who has to travel long distances to get to Spain, right?
Yes.
And so that means that you certainly have a great deal of privilege because you're able to fly overseas. So you're already 50% like ahead of most Americans and Australians, right? But
Yes.
also you're an older person, and also Bill was complaining about flying economy.
Yes.
So clearly Bill is a person of means.
Yes.
So you're wealthy, you're older, you're flying to another country from a long distance away. Does that immediately make you someone who's not necessarily in the right frame of mind to walk pilgrimage? Because
Great
you're
question.
going to try to bend the Camino to you rather than accept the Camino as it is.
Great question. Yeah. The guy that for The Guardian is, I'm going to keep referring to this article, Luke Buckmaster reviewed the film and he said, the word pilgrim has profound or at least religious connotations, but don't expect much religious discussion from this film, which seems predicated in part on making a point that pilgrims can also mean, quote unquote, people with lots of time on their hands.
Right. I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Hey, listen, the whole thing behind our project is why are more and more people doing this?
Yeah.
And that actually may be part of the answer. More and more people with disposable income and time have the opportunity to do this.
But one of the things I will say, and not to pile on Bill here, and I wish we could do an interview with him because I think it would be a great conversation. One of the things somebody tells him, there are four. No, let me back up. There are three companions that are part of a woman and two men, all European, who kind of form his crew, his walking mates, and there are conversations with other people along the way, probably about 5 or 6 other people. But these three people kind of form his close crew, if you will, his community. And one of them tells him early on, one of the goals or one of the requirements for the Camino and being a pilgrim is that you simply walk with an open heart. Love this idea. You and I have talked about this before. And I think Bill does that to, like all of us, to varying degrees. As picky as he can be about how people should walk and what they should wear and what they should carry, he does listen in a rather non-judgmental way. Like he is quick to encourage. He is quick to tell people not. There's one woman who he crossed paths with who she thinks she's killed a man. Right. Like this, when I don't need to go into that, it's kind of weird conversation. But he's quick to encourage her to forgive herself, right? Or at least to see her situation as it truly is. So I do think that's also to the film and his credit.
Okay, let's get into it. Really quickly, we'll go through the superlatives. What's the best scene from the movie?
I should have thought about that as I was watching it. Like, what? I don't know that I have a best scene so much that I have, like, anytime there's just wide shots of the landscape.
Yeah.
It made me remember how much I love walking up a hill and being at the top and being able to see the road stretch for like a mile in front of you.
Mhm.
You know, anything that kind of drew my eye to the distance, because that's what I remember a lot about just the visuals of my time on the Camino was looking up and out. So I was glad that he integrated those the way he did in the film. I want to come back to this later for the maybe more spiritual theological conversation. One of the scenes I really did like is the Scottish guy when they kind of jokingly exchanged conversation about, like, I'm going to walk at my own pace. I'll buy you a beer at the top.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
he was making fun of him, you know? And when they finally sat and had I really enjoyed that conversation as a scene. So probably those two things.
Yeah, I think for me it was when he runs into the Italian. So the way that Bill's journey works, he starts out with like this one crew with the two men and the woman that you talked about before.
Yeah.
And then they end up moving ahead of him, and he ends up with like this Italian couple sort of
Yeah.
in the middle.
Yeah.
And then the Scottish guy at the end. And they're, variously like these people kind of trickle through in different places. But the Italian guy, and I guess this isn't really a scene so much as dialogue from the movie,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
one of the things that you hear about with the Camino all the time is this idea of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, and that the journey itself is broken into these three units, right? And the beginning, when you're crossing over the Pyrenees from Saint Jean de Burgos, is the physical, where your body is getting used to walking. And then you get to the Meseta and it's mental, where you're just kind of walking, to the horizon every day, right? And then the spiritual being that in Galicia, where when you're getting closer to the cathedral. But the Italian said it differently, and it resonated with me in a I think a better way, which is to say that the Camino is like life. And the beginning of life is very dramatic with lots of highs and lows and big hills and deep valleys. And you're just trying to like figure out what the rules of life are. And then the Meseta becomes like midlife, where you've kind of learned the rules and every day looks very similar to the day before. And you're just kind of like running on the treadmill of work life, family life, social life, work life, family life, social life, like every day. And then as you get towards end of life, all of a sudden you start to really reflect on where it is that you are, what it is, and you pay a little bit more attention to the scenery that's around you. And I thought that that was a better way of describing that Camino journey. It was to think of it as a life journey rather than this sort of demarcation of physical, mental, spiritual. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That I perked up in that moment. Yeah. I really like that because if you had to tell people big picture what to expect just from even the physical side of it, that's exactly what you would say. Is like, it's going to be really hard and intense at first.
Right.
And then it's going to be monotonous, and then it's going to be joyous and still challenging because like you mentioned to me before we started recording, you still have Osabrero, the climb that is kind of in that, back half of the pilgrimage. So yeah, that's a good call out. Yeah.
Yeah, you could see somebody at end of life describing their life that way. It's like it's very exciting at first. It was very boring in the middle. And then I had
and
to
then
make
there's a little bit of
sense
fun in
it
the
all at
end. Yeah. And hopefully we're going out with a celebration at the end,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What's the best for performance in the movie?
Well, it's interesting. I want to clarify too, because it kind of threw me for a second that, it's not a documentary, right? Like, even though it feels like one. So when we talk about performances, like when I talked about earlier about Bill, the character of Bill, who is the director and also the writer, but Bill's not playing himself. I
No, it's
need
an
to
actor.
clarify
Yeah.
that it's an actor, who I think as an actor is fine. I don't know that I had one. I know I'm going to keep coming back to the Scottish man, but it's more about what he talked about than anything. Can I say a pass on this? I'm not sure that I had
No,
like
I don't know
a
that there is
favorite.
one that
Yeah.
stands out. I will say that it's encouraging that there weren't any Americans, on the journey. I think that may be the first time that we've watched a Camino something. Well, I guess the Buñuel movie didn't have any
Yeah.
Americans, but
Yeah, that we know
but
of.
it's always kind of. I think it's always kind of a trap to put like an American into a film like this as
Yeah.
like, even as just sort of like a character that needs help. It's fascinating because it's like it's an Hungarian, it's a German, someone from Scandinavia,
Korean guy, it looks like.
Italians, Scottish, Korean, yeah. Which that's how I experienced the Camino, and so I think from my terms, it's not necessarily. I think you're right. There's no standout performance, but if you can say sort of standout casting, that's what I would call out in the
Well,
sense that
we're in the move now where casting is being recognized and all the
yeah.
ensemble cast. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's greater than the sum of its parts. Like I think it adds up to more than if we're trying to
Yeah.
pick one out. I don't think that works, but I think collectively it works really well together.
It's been a tricky film, really, from a performance point of view. There is a mixture of actors and non-actors. And in a sense, the actors have to pitch their performance to the non-actors. In a film like this, the non-actors set the mark. They set the benchmark because they have the truth. They hold the truth. They hold the authenticity.
I think I can see you again. What you need? How is it? Oh my God.
It's really quite interesting because the real Pilgrims, what I call the actuals, in many ways they've sort of determined the style as well because they bring a truth, they bring an authenticity to it. And so the style of the film, the visual style of the film has to accompany that.
Laszlo.
Oh, hi, Bill.
Hey. Water. Uh-huh.
Oh, here. Oh no, it's empty.
When it came to casting the part of Bill, we had to have an actor who was able to work with non-actors. A lot of actors are scared of that.
Chris is a very subtle actor. He's highly observant. He's an incredibly skilled technical actor. It's been a real joy.
Do you mind if I ask you something personal? How much does your backpack weigh, and what is your body weight?
You see me? No. But no one is, This is not mimicry. This is acting.
when you walk the Camino, you will hear varying degrees of accented English as you're like
And it's all
walking
in this
down
film.
the path.
Yeah.
And that's, it's very United Nations in that way. There are a lot of South Koreans on the Camino.
Yeah, Amy and I consistently ran into a young couple that was walking much like us, and again, the type of the situation where you would see the same. We didn't walk together. Maybe one afternoon we did, but we would see them all the time at meals and acknowledge one another and have a chat. So.
In 2013, I walked the Camino de Santiago, the famous 800-kilometer pilgrimage route across Spain. I wasn't Catholic. I wasn't religious. I really didn't know why I felt so compelled to do this long and, for me, agonizing walk. During the walk, I met some pilgrims who helped change my life. They've since become lifelong friends. When I got back home, I wrote a book to try and make sense of it all. The book became very popular, and now it's a movie. And those friends that I met on that Camino 10 years ago have now come back to play themselves in the movie.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, we're already at the big idea because we didn't spend a whole lot of time on performance. So what do you think the big takeaway is from this movie? We were talking a little bit, we were unpacking a little bit of Bill's motivation for walking, or the purpose that he gives at the end, and it basically gets summed up kind of like a fortune cookie, which is this idea of I'm going to be a better person. And sure, I mean, yeah, I
Whatever.
guess
Yeah.
ideally that's what everybody kind of wants to do, but I think that there's probably a little bit more. I was interested to see how it seemed like everyone he met had a very dramatic reason for walking, and it made his feel very mundane as a result.
Yeah, and I think he is the chronicler of these journeys. I think there's a couple of potential takeaways there. One of which is everybody's got a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this film might make the case that you don't necessarily need one, so long as you're open to the experience. And I think the character Bill ultimately is what, even though it feels like his transformation at the end is almost editorialized in a sense of like, well, we got to put this in there. Does Bill need to learn something about himself or change something about himself? Not necessarily. I think there's an experience of the Camino just by opening yourself up to others as the character does is enough. And I think can change you in ways that you won't be able to articulate in the square outside the cathedral like he does, 30 minutes after he's finished the Camino, right? Like that can be with you much longer. And so that kind of felt frustrating, but I think for me, it's just the idea that this is something that more of us should do, whether we're going to have a Camino in our own community and try to open ourselves up to our neighbors, or we have the time, opportunity, and privilege to go to this traditional pilgrimage and do that. To me, that may be the big idea in here. It's just the act of walking with one another, listening to each other.
Yeah, and I think that actually may be at the core of the film. There may be a lesson here that Bill actually doesn't learn and doesn't actually put in the film, but it's kind of hidden in the subtext. He is trying to prescribe for himself the perfect Camino experience. So, for instance, he's not going to take a cab. He's going to walk. You'll hear people say that all the time.
Yeah.
He's going to wear the best shoes. He's going to have the right walking stick. He's going to pack his bag correctly. All of this stuff, right? And you'll hear people say this all the time, like a real pilgrim does X, Y, or Z.
Yep.
I think that what this film actually reveals, if he would allow it to reveal, is that that's all bullshit. What Bill brought to the Camino wasn't him learning anything. It was him being a holder of everybody else's story.
Yeah.
And if it would just allow it to be that, it would be fine.
That's pretty good.
Or if he rode in the cab, it would be fine. It's like all these dictates, of what is a proper pilgrimage.
It doesn't have the courage of its own convictions. Like that's you want to tell Bill what he's implying to so many other people. You are enough.
Yeah.
Like this is good enough. Yeah.
It's okay to have a bad knee and to be an elderly man walking,
you take your time.
Yeah, totally.
I tell you, what I do think is kind of a true pilgrim. If we're going to talk about characteristics of a quote unquote true pilgrim, is I keep coming back to the Scottish guy, but he's somebody who presents himself as the CEO, by all accounts, successful in every count, successful in business and family and life. And yet what he's learned on the Camino, because I wasn't quite sure if this had actually happened to him or if the Camino had opened his eyes to the fact that this was true of his existence, which was, he says to Bill, I've realized that if I lost everything, if I lost my family, my retirement fund disappeared, if I was never a successful CEO, that if I could get 2 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of underwear, and a backpack, and I could set out walking, that would be enough. And I don't know, man. I kind of like that. I mean, I like the perspective. I don't know enough about this guy to know how, is that true of his story? What did he go through? Whatever. But I just really like how I think the Camino does put that in perspective. It's like, I don't need all this.
Yeah, in a way, there's still a little bit of a deception there, right? Because it's like he's telling Bill that at a cafe, and he's about to go to stay in an albergue or a hotel. Like, this isn't free. It's not like
No,
I just
but it is definitely It's definitely life minimalized, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like it's simple living, sure, but you're still plopping down like 1,000 euros.
No, I
It's
know. Thank you for ruining my
well, it's just that I think that no, I think that it's an excellent point because it's like there is a spell that the Camino, especially, but probably pilgrimage in general, puts on people, which is
Yeah.
to say, oh man, this is what it's like to live simply. There's something really attractive about that way of life, right? Being in
Yeah.
community, walking every day, the simplicity of it. But again, all of it comes with tremendous privilege, right?
But on the
That's something
Camino,
that we've talked about.
I mean, I think if we want to take the Camino as something that can instruct our lived experience day to day, whether we're in Spain or not, I
Right.
still think that matters. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to this review one last time for one of the, you get the sense is it's a mixed review here in the Guardian, but one of the things that the critic says towards the end of the review is there's something oddly refreshing about a well-paced film that seems to be in no hurry at all, extolling an appreciation for life's simplest pleasures, walking, talking, imbibing. I mean, I love that. That's a far cry from the moreness of life. Like
Mhm.
we got to do more. We got the kids. We got to get to soccer practice. We gotta blah blah blah. Like that. The pace of this film is a welcome
Yeah.
experience, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the gift. That's the gift of The Way, from the Martin Sheen movie.
That's true. That's a
It's
good
like
point. Yeah.
that was the real. I think that was the real epiphany that it gave
Yes.
Americans that watched that was like,
That's a
wait
good
a
point.
second, you're telling me that I don't have to do anything? I just have to walk and like share stories with other people? Like sign me up, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes, all of that simple life is there, and yet what's the motivating factor for Bill in this movie to get to Santiago as soon as possible? It's to return a man's towel that he thinks is too expensive to leave behind. So like at the end of the day, it's still like materialism and ownership and all of this stuff that's like, that's still like a motivating factor for him a little bit. Yeah.
That was also a bit of a reach narratively. It's like, come on, man, the towel thing, just let it go.
Yeah. So
okay, overall, thumbs up, thumbs down.
I would say thumbs up. As far as like, the Camino stuff that we've looked at, yeah, I mean, I think it's in keeping with some of the better offerings. I think that if it's possible, this feels like a Camino movie for people who have walked the Camino already, whereas The Way feels like a Camino movie for people who haven't walked it, if that makes sense. Speaking of Caminos, we're still going to Spain. Let's do just like a couple of minutes on status update of where we are. So last year we ran our Kickstarter campaign, we got funding, we got new equipment, and if you've been following the Popping Collars world, you'll have noticed that we've started to upload more video on our YouTube site, and that's because I need to test out how to use these devices. So if you go to our YouTube page, you'll start to see videos of like me walking, out in nature trails here in Florida, and how do I use my DJI Pro and like all of that stuff. And so a lot of the video that we're using is equipment that we used from our Kickstarter campaign. So thank you all to everyone who contributed to that. We're only a few months away now from this trip, and we're as prepared as we could be about 3 months out, but there's so many question marks, kind of like Bill's journey here. There's so many question marks about what it's actually going to look like when we get there. There's a bit of like, how do you prepare for something that you have no idea what to expect? It's
Yeah, and in this case, which is really interesting because you've done that before. It's not like you're saying, let me rephrase that. It's not like you're saying, I don't know about what it's going to be like when I go to Madagascar for my upcoming trip because I've never been there. You/we have done this.
Uh-huh.
Not in this way, But
Right.
like that's so it's really interesting because it's almost like you're going back to a place that you're going back to a place that you haven't been before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going back to the future.
Hey.
So the idea is that I'm going to be flying out at the end of May, walking for most of June and the beginning of July. We're going to walk not only to Santiago, but all the way to Finisterre, to the end of the world, and film the whole thing along the way. And then we'll figure out what we've got when we get back with our footage. But I don't know. I think at this point, we're in that sort of phase of very exciting, can't believe that this is actually real, and hope that our listeners follow along with us.
Fingers crossed. I find myself in a different position, like life wise, than when we started this whole project. And I think I find myself in a place where a lot of people are, which is like, how am I going to pull this off? In terms of you and I are in different professional phases of life where your kind of work is married to this type of work in a very real way. And suddenly, my longstanding professional freedom is no more. So it's really for me it will be a different experience. I don't know that there's a world in which I can go for the whole Camino. I would love to, and trust me, I will make that happen if I can. But there's experiencing the Camino again, like most people do, which is in bits and pieces, not the privilege of let's just go 40 days and walk. So, and where do I want to pick those spots? As you and I talked before we recorded, is it cool to try the hardest part again, which I think is the hardest part, is the first week or so, 10 days, or do you come in with some comfort midway through where it is a bit, it's more flat, more manageable, but a bit monotonous, in some places. So
right,
yeah, interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, so a lot has been figured out, but there's still a lot more to figure out. The next time we check in for a pilgrimage episode will be in April. So so that'll be our last
wow. Okay.
Our last pod before the trip itself. So so it's bearing down on us. It's interesting. It's like watching a comet in the sky, and you know that it's moving at like 1 billion miles an hour or whatever, but it just looks like a fixed thing.
Yeah. Yeah. This is good.
Very interesting. Okay, next month, Ryan, we're going back to the world of TV, and our next series that we're going to be discussing is the Michael Shannon vehicle Death by Lightning. Have you seen Death by Lightning?
Love it. Seen it. Let's go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
let's go.
I'm ready.
Ryan, thanks for doing the way, my way with me. Do you hope to be Bill when you grow up?
No. I'm afraid I will be though. Curmudgeon. We call it the way, Bill's way. Bill's way or the highway.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's actually what we're working on. That's our project is our way or the highway.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Thanks everybody. Bye.